Have you ever wondered why some people simply disappear from your life without any explanation? That friend who stopped responding to your messages? That partner who was deeply in love one day and vanished the next as if they never existed? Or that family member who cut all contact without giving you reasons? The way we react when someone walks away without explanation reveals a lot about our psyche. And today, we're going to explore this phenomenon through the eyes of one of the most brilliant psychologists of all time, Carl Jung. Before we continue, if you're new to this channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive more content like this. Your support allows me to keep creating videos that can transform your life. Jung, a pioneer of analytical psychology, taught us that each unexplained abandonment triggers an inner process that can lead to profound revelations about ourselves. If we know how to interpret the signs, think for a moment. What was the first thing you felt when that special person walked away without telling you why? Confusion? Pain? Anger? Or perhaps a strange mixture of all of the above? According to Jung, these emotions aren't simple reactions to an external event. They're messengers from your unconscious trying to communicate something important about yourself and about the relationship you've lost. Jung said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And that unexplained departure that hurts so much is precisely one of those mirrors that life puts in front of you so you can see beyond the apparent. Most people react automatically when someone walks away. They chase, plead, get angry, or sink into despair. They act from the wounded ego, from that superficial self that Jung defined as only a small part of who we really are. But today, I'm going to show you a different path. A path that Jung traced decades ago and that remains revolutionary. The path of using that abandonment as a gateway to your own psychological development. The first thing you need to understand is that according to Jungian psychology, when someone walks away without explanation, you're not simply losing an external relationship. You're experiencing what Jung would call a crisis of individuation. A crucial moment in your psychological development that has the potential to connect you with deeper aspects of your being. Jung described individuation as the process by which a person becomes a psychological individual, that is, a separate and indivisible unit, a whole. When someone important walks away, a void is created that disturbs your sense of wholeness, and it's precisely this imbalance that can catalyze extraordinary growth. But how exactly? How do you transform the pain of abandonment into an opportunity to grow? The first step, according to Jung, is to face your shadow. The shadow is that part of ourselves that we repress, that we hide, that we don't want to see. These are our fears, insecurities, and aspects we consider unacceptable. When someone walks away without explanation, our shadow emerges forcefully. Thoughts arise like, "I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. Everyone always abandons me." These thoughts aren't coincidental. They're manifestations of your shadow, aspects of yourself that you've been avoiding confronting. Jung taught us that the only way to free ourselves from the power the shadow holds over us is by recognizing it, accepting it, and integrating it. Instead of running away from those painful thoughts, observe them with curiosity. Ask yourself, where does this belief come from? When was the first time I felt this way? Most people try to escape these uncomfortable questions. They seek distractions, new relationships, or immerse themselves in work. But you, who are listening to this video, are ready for something deeper. The second step is to recognize projections. Jung discovered that much of what we believe we see in others are actually projections of our own inner world. We project onto others qualities, defects, and expectations that belong to our psyche. When someone walks away, we tend to create narratives. They left me because they found someone better. They left because they saw my flaws. They didn't value me enough. According to Jung, these narratives reveal more about us than about the person who walked away. Ask yourself, what qualities or defects am I projecting onto that person? What story am I telling myself about why they left? The answers will surprise you, because they'll show you aspects of yourself that you hadn't recognized. The third crucial element in Jungian psychology is the concept of complexes. Complexes are groupings of thoughts, feelings, and memories that are emotionally charged and influence our behavior, often unconsciously. Jung discovered that many of our exaggerated reactions to situations such as an unexplained departure are due to that situation activating a complex. Perhaps you have an abandonment complex formed in your childhood, or an insufficiency complex that makes you believe you're never enough. These complexes aren't defects that you must eliminate, but aspects of your psyche that need to be understood and integrated. When someone walks away and you feel disproportionate pain, that pain is the gateway to your complexes. It's an invitation to explore the deepest wounds of your psyche. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Do you remember the last time someone important walked away from your life without explanation? How did you react? Did you see any of these dynamics in action? Take a few seconds to think about it. Good. Let's continue with the fourth fundamental element in the Jungian approach: archetypes. Jung discovered that we all share certain universal psychological patterns that he called archetypes. These archetypes powerfully influence how we experience relationships and abandonments. When someone walks away without explanation, several archetypes can be activated in your psyche. The wounded child archetype emerges with feelings of vulnerability and helplessness. The hero or heroine appears with the impulse to fight to recover the relationship. The victim manifests when you feel unfairly treated, and the sage emerges when you seek to understand and extract meaning from the experience. Jung taught us that these archetypes aren't simple emotional reactions, but powerful psychic forces that can guide us toward our wholeness. The trick is to recognize which archetype is dominating your response to abandonment and find a balance between them. If you're dominated by the victim archetype, you'll remain trapped in resentment and self-pity. If the hero takes control, you might wear yourself out in futile attempts to recover someone who has decided to leave. But if you can access the sage archetype, you'll find meaning and growth even in the pain of abandonment. Now let me tell you about one of Jung's most revolutionary concepts: synchronicity. Jung defined synchronicity as meaningful coincidences that don't have a causal explanation but seem to be connected by meaning. When someone walks away from your life without explanation, synchronicity suggests that this isn't simply a random or unfortunate event. It's part of a broader pattern of meaning in your life. Jung believed that these apparently negative events often precede important leaps in our psychological development. Think about it. How many times have you looked back on your life and realized that something that seemed like a tragedy at the time was actually a crucial turning point towards something better? Jung invites us to consider that this unexplained departure could be exactly what you need for your evolution. But how do you concretely act when someone walks away without explanation? Based on Jungian psychology, I'm going to give you 7 specific steps that will transform this painful experience into an opportunity for extraordinary growth. Step 1. Allow yourself to fully feel your emotions. Jung emphasized the importance of completely experiencing our emotions instead of repressing them. Pain, anger, confusion, all these emotions are messengers bringing valuable information from your unconscious. Don't ignore them. Many people try to move on too quickly. They suppress their emotions, deny them, or drown them in distractions. From a Jungian perspective, this is a serious mistake. Those repressed emotions don't disappear. They simply sink deeper into the unconscious, where they'll continue to influence your future relationships. Step 2. Look for the symbolic message. Jung saw the events of our lives as symbols that contain deeper meanings. Ask yourself, what might this departure be symbolizing in my life? What part of myself might be trying to emerge through this loss? Perhaps this person represented a part of you that you've been neglecting. Maybe their departure is a symbol that you need to more fully develop certain aspects of your personality that you had delegated to this relationship. Step 3. Examine your projections. As I mentioned before, we tend to project aspects of ourselves onto others, especially onto close people. When someone walks away, it's the perfect time to identify what you were projecting onto that person. Did you deposit your sense of worth in them? Did you attribute qualities to them that you actually yearn to develop in yourself? Jung taught us that reclaiming our projections is an essential step towards psychological wholeness. Step 4. Dialogue with your unconscious. Jung developed a technique called active imagination that allows you to establish a conscious dialogue with parts of your unconscious. You can use it to better understand why this loss affects you so much. Imagine that you can converse with the part of you that feels abandoned. What would it tell you? What does it need? What does it fear? This internal dialogue can reveal crucial aspects of your psyche that have been activated by the departure. Step 5. Look for repetitive patterns. Jung observed that patterns we don't recognize tend to repeat in our lives. If you've experienced similar abandonments in the past, this is the time to identify the underlying pattern. Do you tend to choose partners or friends with certain traits that eventually lead to abandonment? Are there behaviors of yours that contribute to people walking away? Jungian psychology invites us to take responsibility for these patterns, not to blame ourselves, but to free ourselves from their unconscious repetition. Step 6. Integrate the opposites. Jung spoke extensively about the need to integrate opposite aspects of our personality. When someone walks away, we often experience an internal polarization. Either we blame ourselves completely, or we blame the other completely. True healing, according to Jung, comes from integrating these opposite perspectives, recognizing both your contribution to the situation and the factors that were outside your control, seeing both your vulnerabilities and your strengths. This integration of opposites leads to a more complete and mature understanding of what happened. Step 7. Recognize the opportunity for individuation. Finally, Jung taught us that periods of crisis are unique opportunities to advance in our individuation process, the path toward becoming who we truly are. When someone walks away without explanation, they create an empty space in your life. That void, although painful, is also a blank canvas. An opportunity to rediscover yourself, to cultivate aspects of yourself that you had neglected, to define yourself on your own terms instead of in relation to another person. Now, I want to talk to you about a Jungian concept that is particularly relevant when someone walks away without explanation: the anima and animus. Jung discovered that every man has an unconscious feminine aspect, the anima, and every woman has an unconscious masculine aspect, the animus. These internal figures powerfully influence our relationships. Often we feel attracted to people who reflect our anima or animus, and when those people walk away, we can feel that a fundamental part of us has gone with them. From a Jungian perspective, this pain is inviting us to develop those aspects internally, instead of seeking them exclusively in others. If you're a man whose female partner walked away, perhaps it's time to cultivate the qualities of your anima, your sensitivity, intuition, and capacity for emotional connection. If you're a woman whose male partner disappeared, perhaps it's the opportunity to develop the qualities of your animus, your assertiveness, independence, and logical thinking. There's something else that Jung would teach us about how to handle an unexplained departure: the importance of paying attention to your dreams. Jung saw dreams as direct messages from the unconscious that can provide profound perspectives on our conflicts and paths of healing. After a significant loss, it's common to experience intense dreams related to the person who walked away or to the feeling of abandonment. These dreams aren't simple byproducts of stress. According to Jung, they are attempts by your psyche to process the experience and point you toward directions for healing. Keep a dream journal during this period. Write down any recurring symbol, emotion, or scenario. Ask yourself what your unconscious might be communicating to you through these oniric images. Often, you'll find surprising clues about how to move forward. One of the most difficult aspects of an unexplained departure is the lack of closure. Not having clear answers about why the other person decided to leave can leave us in an emotional limbo where it's difficult to move forward. Jung would understand this as a state of suspension between opposites, what he called a tension of opposites. On one hand, there's the hope that the person will return, or at least explain their reasons. On the other hand, there's the need to accept reality and move on. This tension can be incredibly painful, but Jung taught us that it's precisely in the tension between opposites where the energy for a new level of consciousness emerges. Instead of prematurely resolving this tension by rushing into a new relationship or completely closing yourself off, Jung would invite you to remain in that uncomfortable no man's land long enough for a third possibility to emerge. One that is neither clinging to the past nor compulsively denying it, but a new way of relating to yourself and others. Now, there's a Jungian concept that is especially relevant when someone disappears from your life without explanation. The persona. The persona, in Jungian terms, is the social mask we wear, the image we present to the world. When we're in a significant relationship, our persona often adjusts to complement the other person. We develop certain traits, suppress others, adopt certain interests or ways of being to better fit into the relationship. When that person abruptly walks away, it can feel as if part of our identity is crumbling along with the relationship. This is a sign that you had merged your persona too much with the relationship, losing touch with more authentic aspects of yourself. Jung would see this painful moment as an opportunity to rediscover your identity beyond the persona you had built in relation to the other. It's an invitation to ask yourself, who am I when I'm not trying to be what I think others want me to be? There's something else that Jung would teach us about how to respond when someone walks away without explanation. The importance of what he called the golden shadow. We normally talk about the shadow as the repository of our repressed negative aspects, but Jung also recognized that we repress positive qualities. These unexpressed positive qualities constitute our golden shadow, talents, strengths, and gifts we've denied or underdeveloped, often because they didn't fit into our relationships, or because we feared shining too brightly. When someone important walks away, it can create the space for aspects of your golden shadow to emerge. Talents you had abandoned, passions you had suppressed, forms of expression you had silenced. All of these can begin to flourish in the space that has been left empty. Ask yourself, what parts of me have been waiting to be expressed? What positive qualities have I been repressing? What gifts have I not been fully honoring? This approach transforms abandonment from a loss to a rediscovery. A crucial aspect of Jungian psychology that directly relates to how to handle an unexplained departure is the concept of the regulating center of the psyche that Jung called the self, with a capital S to distinguish it from the ego. The self represents the totality of the psyche, including both the conscious and the unconscious. Jung believed that this psychic center has its own wisdom and constantly guides us toward our most complete realization, even through painful experiences such as abandonment. From this perspective, when someone walks away without explanation, the self might be orchestrating a necessary reorganization of your psychic life. Perhaps this loss is part of a broader pattern of transformation that you can't fully see from your current perspective. Jung would encourage us to trust this inner wisdom, to consider that perhaps there is a deeper purpose in this painful experience. Not a purpose in the simplistic sense of everything happens for a reason, but a natural movement of your psyche toward greater integrity and authenticity. This trust in the self doesn't eliminate the pain, but it can give it a broader and more meaningful context. It allows you to ask, how might this experience be serving my more complete development as a human being? One of Jung's most profound concepts that can help you when someone walks away without explanation is what he called the dark night of the soul, borrowing the term from the mystic St. John of the Cross. Jung recognized that there are periods in our life where we feel completely lost, abandoned, or in total darkness. These periods aren't simple depressions or setbacks. They are fundamental transformations of the psyche. Jung saw them as alchemical processes where the raw material of our previous personality must completely dissolve before a new psychic configuration can emerge. If you're experiencing a departure that has plunged you into a deep emotional darkness, the Jungian perspective would invite you to see this as a process of psychological death and rebirth. It's not just that you've lost someone important. It's that an earlier version of yourself is dying to make way for something new. This perspective doesn't make the pain less real, but it gives it a transformative meaning. It allows you to ask, what version of me needs to die so that a new one can be born? What psychic structures that no longer serve me are being dissolved in this darkness? Jung firmly believed in people's capacity to profoundly transform their lives, even after devastating losses. He himself experienced a period of deep crisis after his breakup with Freud, a figure who had been like a father to him. That crisis led him to develop his most original ideas and find his own path. Your experience of abandonment, as painful as it may be, contains the same potential. It's not just the end of a relationship. It could be the beginning of a deeper relationship with yourself. Now let me address something that Jung would consider crucial: your external response when someone walks away without explanation. While the internal work we've discussed is fundamental, your external actions also matter. From a Jungian perspective, the most powerful response is not to desperately chase the person who walked away, nor to cut all contact in an act of wounded pride. Both responses come from the ego, not the self, and both keep your psychic energy tied to the dynamic of abandonment. Instead, Jung would propose a response based on integrity and authenticity. Communicate your feelings honestly, without expectations of changing the other person's decision. Express your pain, confusion, or disappointment without using those emotions as manipulation tools. And then, the hardest part, allow the situation to be what it is. This response honors both your emotional experience and the other person's freedom. It doesn't deny the pain or try to control it. It simply expresses the truth of your experience while letting go of the outcome. Jung taught us that what you resist persists. When you desperately fight against the reality that someone has chosen to walk away, you prolong your suffering and block your own growth process. Acceptance, as painful as it may be, is the first step toward transformation. But I want to be clear. Acceptance doesn't mean passive resignation. It doesn't mean that the abandonment is okay or that it doesn't matter. It means that you recognize reality as it is now, so you can respond to it with your whole being, not just with your defense mechanisms. Jung would also tell us about the importance of rituals for processing a significant departure. Traditional societies have always had rituals to mark important transitions and losses. But in our modern world, we often lack these symbolic structures to process our experiences. Creating your own farewell ritual can be incredibly powerful. Perhaps you write a letter that you don't need to send, expressing everything you feel. Maybe you create a small ceremony where you symbolize letting go of the relationship. Or you could create a work of art that represents your process of grief and transformation. These symbolic acts aren't mere superstitions. They are ways to engage your entire psyche, conscious and unconscious, in the process of integration and healing. Symbols speak the language of the unconscious, allowing deeper parts of you to participate in the healing process. As you advance on this path of transformation after an unexplained departure, Jung would remind you of the importance of community. While inner work is essential, we also need authentic human connections to heal completely. Seek people who can accompany you in this process without trying to fix you or rush your grief. People who can hold space for your pain without drowning you in compassion, who can listen without judging and support without creating dependency. This supportive community doesn't replace the relationship you've lost, but provides you with the human context necessary to integrate the experience and rediscover your capacity for connection. Jung would also emphasize the importance of finding meaning in your suffering. Not a meaning imposed from outside, everything happens for a reason, but a meaning that you yourself discover through your process. Ask yourself, how has this experience changed my understanding of myself and of relationships? What have I learned that I couldn't have learned any other way? How can I use this experience to grow not only as an individual, but also in my capacity to connect with others? As you find your own meaning in the experience of abandonment, it transforms something that seemed simply destructive into something that, although painful, also contains the seeds of a new creation. Finally, Jung would remind us that this entire process isn't just about overcoming a specific loss. It's about a broader awakening, what he called the individuation process, the lifelong path toward the realization of your most complete and authentic self. The departure you've experienced, seen through this lens, isn't just an unfortunate event. It's a call to awaken, an invitation to a deeper journey into yourself. It's as if life were telling you, there's more to you than you've discovered so far. There are depths you haven't yet explored, strengths you haven't yet claimed, an authenticity you haven't yet fully embodied. This awakening isn't easy. It often comes through pain, loss, and disorientation. But as Jung discovered in his own life and in his work with his patients, it's precisely through these challenging experiences that we find our way to a more meaningful life. When someone walks away without explanation, you can get stuck in the whys. Why did they leave? Why didn't they give me an explanation? Why wasn't I enough? Or you can transform those whys into what fors. What is this occurring in my life now for? What do I need this experience for? Where is this pain guiding me? This transformation of perspective is perhaps the most powerful gift that Jungian psychology offers to those who have been inexplicably abandoned. It allows you to see that even in the pain of abandonment, there is an invitation to a deeper level of being, to a more authentic and full life. So, dear viewer, if you're going through the experience of someone important having walked away without explanation, I want you to know this. There is a path through this pain, a path that doesn't just take you back to where you were before, but forward toward a more integrated, conscious, and authentic version of yourself. This path isn't easy. It requires courage to face your shadows, honesty to examine your projections, wisdom to recognize your patterns, and compassion to embrace all the parts of yourself that emerge in this process. But as Jung discovered, and as countless people have experienced since then, this path of integration and authenticity is infinitely valuable. It leads you not only to overcome a specific loss, but to discover a way of being in the world that is richer, more connected, and more fulfilling than you had imagined possible. Before concluding this video, I want to leave you with a question to reflect on, a question that Jung might have asked you. What part of you is waiting to be discovered through this experience of loss? Don't answer quickly. Let the question resonate within you. Let it work in the depths of your being. The answer may not come immediately, but when it does, it can completely transform your understanding of what you're experiencing. If this video has resonated with you, I invite you to share it with someone who might be going through a similar experience. Sometimes, the right perspective at the right time can be the difference between getting stuck in pain and finding a path toward transformation. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Have you lived through an unexplained departure? What did you discover through that experience? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive notifications of future videos. We're on this journey together, exploring the depths of human experience and discovering together the path toward a more conscious and fulfilling life. And remember, when someone walks away without explanation, the real power isn't in understanding why they left, but in discovering who you can become through this experience. As Jung said, "I am not what has happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Unexplained abandonment has been, for countless people, the catalyst for the most profound awakenings. Perhaps, seen from a Jungian perspective, it's not a door that closes, but a portal that opens toward a more complete and authentic version of yourself. If you've been going through this experience, I want you to know that your pain is real and valid. Don't try to minimize or deny it, but I also want you to know that this pain can transform into something powerful and beautiful if you're willing to do the internal work it requires. Jung discovered that people who have the courage to face their deepest wounds are precisely the ones who find the most valuable treasures within. It's not despite your pain, but through it, that you'll find your way to greater fullness. So, when someone walks away without explanation, don't desperately run after them. Don't sink into self-pity. Don't lock yourself in resentment. Instead, turn your attention inward. Ask yourself, what part of me is asking to be seen and healed now? What am I being invited to discover about myself? This isn't a process you can rush. As Jung taught us, psychological transformation has its own rhythm, which doesn't always align with our desires. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself the space to feel, to reflect, to fall apart if necessary, and to rebuild yourself in a new way. Remember that, according to Jung, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. This is your moment to awaken, to see with new eyes, not only others, but yourself. And if you feel this journey is too overwhelming to undertake alone, seek support. A therapist trained in Jungian or analytical psychology can be an invaluable guide. A circle of understanding friends can provide you with the emotional support you need. Books by Jung and his followers can offer you perspectives that illuminate your path. Never forget that, as Jung discovered, within you there are psychic resources much more powerful than you imagine. Your psyche has an innate wisdom, a natural tendency toward healing and integrity. Trust that inner process, even when the path seems dark or confusing. In the end, when you look back at this period of your life, you might discover that unexplained departure that hurt you so much was actually one of the most valuable gifts you've received. Not because abandonment itself is good, but because it propelled you toward a journey of self-discovery that you might otherwise never have undertaken. As Jung said, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. This pain you're experiencing now may be the pain of a new birth, of a new way of being, more integrated, more conscious, more truly you. Thank you for joining me in this deep exploration of how to respond when someone walks away without explanation. If this video has helped you in any way, click like, share it with those you think might benefit, and leave your thoughts in the comments. What perspective or idea from this video resonated most with you? What questions has it awakened in you? Your participation not only helps me create better content for you, but also enriches our community with your unique perspective. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the depths of the human psyche and discovering together the path toward a more conscious, authentic, and fulfilling life. Remember, the greatest power isn't in controlling who stays or leaves your life, but in choosing who you decide to be through each experience. And in that power, no one can touch you. It's completely yours.